Today, we're going to take a look at one of my favorite books, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harvecker, and we're going to answer the question, is this really a book on magic? Broadcasting live from a sacred temple deep in the heart of the Rocky Mountains, this is Success Magica, the FMS Mastermind podcast. I'm Nathan Frazier, internet marketer with face tattoos, and today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite books ever written. You know what? Actually, I think it does live up to that title, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Now, I still remember the first time that I read this book. I think it was Ray Edwards, the copywriter, who suggested that I give this book a try, and it absolutely flipped my world upside down. It came at a pivotal time in my life, and it just completely took everything that I thought and flipped it on its head. As I was reading it, I realized how many self-sabotaging, self-defeating programs I had running in the back of my mind that I didn't even realize were there until they were pointed out in this book. And I was like, oh yeah, I've told myself that. Oh yeah, I believe that. And one by one, this book went through and revealed all of these negative programs that I didn't even realize that I had, that I didn't even realize I was operating under. It helped reveal them to me. And one of my favorite things about it is it helped me write new programs to go forward with that better served me. So as we go through this week's episode, we'll cover some of those aspects of the book, but I wanted to start with why I'm framing this book in the context of magic. So in the early 2000s, I started my first business with my little brother. We started an underground hip hop record label, and we were having a lot of fun. We were making a decent amount of money, and I realized I had no idea about how to run a business. And I started looking into all of the stuff about business and mindset and money. And growing up as a poverty-stricken, progressive leftist, I realized that I was way out of my depths when it came to both how to run a business, but also how to manage myself, manage my own emotions, manage my own mindset. It was about that time that I started looking into different courses, different books on how to think better, how to think of myself as a business owner, how to act and carry myself as a business owner so that I could actually live into the role of being a successful business owner. And so some of the first books that I came across, my favorite book that I came across at the time was called As a Man Thinketh. I also picked up The 4 Agreements, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I just went down this rabbit hole of mindset and self-development, personal development books, and I was just gobbling up as much information as I possibly could. And then about a decade later, in 2012, somebody recommended that I check this one out, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harvecker. And this is the one, especially at the time, made the most impact on my life, on my thinking, and if I'm being quite honest, on my money attraction skills. And so to give you a little bit of references to where I was at in my own world in 2012, in April of 2012, April 10th, my father died. April 13th, my brother died. My dad died of heroin-related stuff. He got hepatitis from shooting up heroin, sharing needles with people, ended up dying from that. And then 3 days later, that same year, my little brother passed away. Alcoholism, liver disease, kidney failure. We drank, we partied way too much when we were doing our hip-hop thing. I kind of backed off after a while. My brother just kept going full force into it, living that lifestyle. It ended up taking him from us at 29 years old. It was a hard year for me, losing my little brother who was my best friend, losing my dad in a span of 3 days, 3 days apart. Man, I was just wrecked. And to be honest, it took everything I had not to just give up on everything. I felt so deflated. I felt like the wind had been taken out of my sails. My brother, who was my best friend and my business partner, was taken from me. Our record label, I had no idea what was going to happen to it from that point forward. My dad had just passed away 3 days before that, and I honestly felt like just throwing my hands up and giving up on everything. And then I was recommended by one of my mentors at the time, one of the copywriters that I was learning how to write copy from. I was going through one of his courses, and he recommended this book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harvecker. And so I went to Audible, I downloaded the book, I listened to it, and it changed my life. Words can't even express how low I felt at that point in my life. And it wasn't just this book that changed everything and came in. It was like the Holy Spirit and it revitalized me. But at that point in my life, when I was at the darkest, lowest moment, and my mind was just filled with these negative, self-defeating thoughts, going through and listening to this book, and I recommend the one that was actually narrated by the author, T. Harvecker. He is hilarious. He puts a lot of attitude into it, but he's kind of a dick. He has a tendency to kind of snarkily talk at the audience. He has a tendency to narrate the book in kind of a snarky tone. He'll often go off on tangents where he's like, and then the guy came up to me and he told me, I don't need money to be happy. And I looked that guy straight in the eyes and I told him, you're broke, aren't you? He has a lot of spunk in the way he narrates this book. We'll leave it at that. And for some people that might be a turnoff, but for me at that point in my life, it was exactly what I needed. I didn't need the kid gloves. I didn't need a soft touch. I needed somebody to grab me by the collar of my shirt and be like, yo, stop being such a little bitch. So at the time, the version of the book that I found, the one narrated by him, was exactly what I needed. And the underlying foundation of the book is mostly about mindset. It's about belief systems and anti-success stories that you tell yourself and anti-wealth stories that you tell yourself that prevent you from becoming successful, that prevent you from becoming wealthy. As I was going through it, having read those other books that I mentioned earlier, a lot of the stuff that he was talking about made sense to me. But then there was a bunch of other stuff that he starts breaking down that I never even realized, I never even contemplated, I never even saw in myself until he broke it down. And so again, like I said, at the time in my life, this was the perfect book for me to find. But if you would have asked me at the time if this was a book on magic, I would have laughed at you and I would have said, no way, not at all, no way whatsoever. Now, fast forward to 2020, we've got Corona going on. My business is just doing horrible. 2019, my business is doing great. 2020, my business is doing horrible. Two of my favorite clients, their businesses go under, so they no longer need my services. I'm worried about all of the restrictions. I'm watching small businesses get shut down left and right. I cater to small businesses. I do marketing for small businesses. So I'm watching the world close in around me. And then I start noticing a ton of different synchronicities happening in my life. I wake up, I'm singing a song to myself that I haven't heard in years, and I jump in the car, I turn the car on, and the first song that plays on the radio is the song that I've been singing to myself all morning. I'm waiting in line at the grocery store, I'm thinking of something in my head, and then the person in front of me in line blurts out the exact same thing that I was thinking word for word. Before Corona hit, actually October of 2019, I started reading Stephen King's The Stand. I was like, I want to read a scary book for Halloween. So I picked up Stephen King's The Stand. It's a book about a virus created in a lab that escapes and wipes out the population. And within 1 or 2 days of finishing reading the book, stories about a very eerily similar type of virus coming out of China start popping up on YouTube. And that was weird, but I didn't think too much about it until about 6 or 7 months into the whole thing. And I'm starting to realize these synchronicities. And I'm like, this is so weird. And then YouTube starts showing me videos about synchronicities and about consciousness and about how consciousness is a two-way streak, a radio receiver and broadcaster. And this is while I'm experiencing all of these crazy synchronicities in my life. And I start to think to myself, maybe my business is doing horrible because I went into this year expecting my business to do horrible. And then I have a couple of really amazing things happen in my career, in my business. I bring on a client who starts also talking to me about synchronicities. And this is all taking place within like a 6-month span, about 6 months after the lockdowns of Corona started. So at the time, I'm playing around with the idea of the dark arts of marketing. I had a podcast at the time called The Dark Arts of Marketing. And then YouTube starts recommending me all kinds of stuff about magic. And that's when my life goes down the rabbit hole. So real quick, let's explain the difference between high magic and low magic. Low magic is for influencing things, influencing the world, casting spells to get things that you want. I want this person to fall in love with me. I want $50. I want whatever. It's all about changing the world or influencing the world to bring you the things that you want in life. And then there's High Magick, and the principles of High Magick are all about becoming the type of person that attracts those things, finding your purpose, finding your reason for being. High Magick isn't about casting spells to get all the stuff that you want. High Magick is about developing yourself into the type of person who naturally attracts those things, but also is happy just because they've found their purpose. They've found fulfillment in life. And to be honest, the low magic stuff doesn't really appeal to me. In fact, at first it kind of scared me, so I never really dabbled in any of that stuff because of what it implied. I was very much a materialist at the time, and I didn't want to think that there was some kind of spiritual forces that could be manipulating and doing all of this weird stuff in the world. I just didn't want to go down that path. But the High Magick stuff, the stuff about how to get in touch with your guardian angel and find your purpose in life and find fulfillment and develop yourself into the type of person that you're supposed to be, the personal alchemy, the taking the lead of the man and turning it into a man of gold, that type of stuff really connected with me because it was the stuff that I had already been studying through these different lenses, through these different frames for the last 10 years, for the last 20 years. So naturally, I started investigating that aspect of magic, the high magic aspect of magic. Not the casting spells to get what I want stuff, but more the tuning myself to be the person I'm supposed to be in alignment with what I'm destined to be here for, whatever that destiny might be. And again, this is about a year into Corona, so this is like late 2020. I'm talking to two of my mentors, two of the guys that I get business lessons from and I'm in masterminds with, and both of them kind of cautiously and subtly indicate that they too believe in magic. They believe in this universal consciousness, and they don't come out and say it flat out, but they do start making hints in different conversations that we're having. And maybe it was stuff that they were talking about all along and I just wasn't able to pick up on it because I didn't understand it. I didn't have a conception of it, but I start noticing them saying certain things that I'm reading or I'm finding in my research into High Magick. And one of them comes at all of this stuff from a Western esoteric point of view, and one of them comes at it from an Eastern esoteric point of view. But when I finally work up the courage, when I finally grow enough balls to ask, both of them tell me, yeah, I'm into this stuff. I've been learning this stuff. I've been researching this stuff. One of them has been doing it since he was a teenager. One of them has been into it since he was a kid. It was part of his upbringing. And then somebody else recommended that I read The Kabbalion, and that sent me down the rabbit hole for good. And all of that to say this, I recently reread the book Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, and not so much to my surprise, but a little bit, I was kind of shocked to find that it's littered with subtle magical principles. And that's what I wanted to explore today. So in the Kabbalion, which is kind of like a Western Hermeticist's 7 principles of Western Hermeticism, the first one, I believe, is all is mental. Everything starts in the mind. And it's the idea that every action that people take, every success that people have accomplished, every invention that people have brought into reality that has been manifested since the beginning of time, all of it starts as a seed in the mind. It has to begin here in the mind before it can be reflected out in the real world as it may be. So the idea that everything starts in the mind, everything has its beginning in the mind, and that everything is a reflection of the mind is a hardcore principle. It's a steadfast principle of Western esotericism, Western magic. And as I'm going through the Secrets of the Millionaire Mind for the 20th, 30th time, but the most recent time after I've gone down this rabbit hole of exploring High Magick, I start coming across a lot of principles in the book. The book has these things called wealth principles, and a lot of them are saying the exact same thing that the first chapter of the Kabbalion is saying. A lot of these wealth principles are just reinterpretations of the very foundational principle of Western esotericism, which is all is mental. It all starts in the mind. So a couple examples of these, wealth principle number 5 inside of Secrets of the Millionaire Mind is thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to action, actions lead to results. So again, everything starts in the mind. Everything starts with your thoughts. Wealth principle number 9 says, consciousness is observing your thoughts and actions so you can live from true choice in the present moment rather than being run by programming from your past. And again, this is just saying the reality that you live in, the circumstances that you're dealing with, all of them come from your mind, from your choices, from your subconscious programs. And if you want to have a life that you love, that you enjoy, rather than feeling oppressed by your life, you need to take control of those programs. You need to examine those subconscious programs, and instead of just letting them be on autopilot, you need to go through and really pick them apart and say, are these serving me? And if they're not, start replacing those programs with programs that do serve you. But again, the circumstances that you live in all have their root in your mind. Wealth principle number 22 says, if you say you're worthy, you are. If you say you're not worthy, you're not. Either way, you will live into your story. And at the time, I saw that as more of like an imposter syndrome thing. Like if you say that you're not worthy, you're not even going to try. And if you don't even try, you're not going to get the results. So telling yourself that you're not worthy is kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. But now I understand the power of words, the power of belief. And if you believe this about yourself, if you speak this to yourself, if you tell yourself that you're not worthy, you're going to end up living a life where you're not worthy. And if you tell yourself that you are worthy, you're going to end up living a life that reflects the fact that you told yourself that you are worthy. And it's not just you living into the story that you tell yourself, it's actually reality conforming to the story that you tell the universe. So you have to be careful about the stories that you tell yourself and the thoughts and the vibrations and the energy that you put out into the ether. But most of us just do this without even giving it a second thought whatsoever. Like I said, those subconscious programs. Which brings us to wealth principle number 41, and that is training and managing your own mind is the most important skill you could ever own in terms of both happiness and success. So once you realize how much power your thoughts have, both over how you act and how the universe reflects the things that you believe, it starts to become crystal clear that you need to have more control over the thoughts that you entertain, the things that you speak into the universe, the things that you tell yourself about yourself, the things that you tell yourself about the world and other people. Learning how to control your mind, not just let it go wherever it wants to go, not just let it operate on autopilot all the time. You realize that getting control over your own mind is one of the most powerful things that you can do in life. And in my opinion, that's why meditation is so important when it comes to magic, is that you need to learn how to clear your mind. You need to learn how to not let random thoughts come in and hijack your attention. Meditation is a great way to learn how to control what you think about and not let your mind do the leading. You lead your mind. Meditation teaches you to take the reins of your own mind so that you are in control, so that you can make your mind serve you. And once you learn how to control your own mind, your own thoughts, your own belief systems, it becomes a lot easier to control all of the things around you. And that brings us to wealth principle 36, and that is action is the bridge between the inner world and the outer world. So yes, it's great to work on personal development. It's great to work on meditation. It's great to work on getting more control over your own thought patterns and your own belief systems. But when it comes to making that change in yourself, actually have a reflection in the world around you and start making a change in your circumstances and the world around you, even the best magicians that I know, they talk about stacking the deck in your favor. Yes, you can think about things. Yes, you can pray for things. Yes, you can cast spells or write sigils for things. But taking proper actions to make those prayers, to make those sigils, more impactful, more likely to happen is so important. Magic is just influence, and self-development is just influence. You're learning how to influence yourself. But in order to make that influence extend beyond yourself, proper action is needed. You can cast spells all day to win the lotto, but if you don't go out and buy lotto tickets, it's not going to happen for you. And even if you do buy lotto tickets, the chances are still pretty slim. Magic might increase the chances, but it doesn't guarantee it. So, doing things to make financial success more likely, like starting your own business, learning how to market, learning how to manage your money, that's using action to stack the deck in your favor. That's using action as the bridge between the inner world and the outer world. The next magical principle that keeps coming up over and over again in this book is the idea of where your attention goes, energy flows and results show. In fact, that's wealth principle number 31. Where your attention goes, energy flows and results show. And most people understand the basic concept, the basic principle that if you focus on something, you're training your brain to see more of it. So if you say, I really want to get a red Tesla, every time a red Tesla crosses your path, it's going to grab your attention, even if you're not consciously thinking about it. And you'll see more red Teslas than you normally would. So yes, the things that you place your attention on, that you pay attention to, might have a disproportionate amount of importance placed on them. You might see them more frequently, but not because they're showing up more frequently, just because you're paying more attention to them. But it's been my experience that there's also a compounding effect. When I was going through early 2020 and my mindset was just crap and I was looking for all these reasons to be disappointed and pissed off at the world started to suck for me really bad. So I get that side of the argument, but I also understand in my life, when I'm focused on good things keep coming to me. When I get off track, when I start focusing on something bad and my mind starts going to other bad things start coming to me. It's kind of like the universe doesn't know whether something is good or bad to you. It doesn't even care. It just knows this is what you're focused on. So this must be what's important to you. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to get you more of that. So if you dwell on bad things, if you put all of your attention on the bad things in life, the things that you complain about, the things that make you sad, the universe says this must be what's important to this person. And it goes out and it gets more things for you to be sad about, more things for you to complain about, more things for you to be angry about. But if you're someone who puts your attention on the good things in life, the things that you celebrate, the things that you're grateful for, the universe says these are the things that are important for this person. So it goes out and it gets you more things to celebrate, more things to rejoice over, more things to be grateful for. We help create, or at the very least influence, the reality we live in based off of where we place our attention, which is why this wealth principle really stuck out to me. Wealth principle number 31, where your attention goes, energy flows and results show. And that brings us to wealth principle number 10. And I'm not really doing these in order. I'm kind of skipping around throughout the book in order to fit the flow of this particular podcast episode. But wealth principle number 10 is you can choose to think in ways that support you in your happiness and your success instead of ways that don't. And before this one became a reality for me, it seemed so absurd. It seemed like, look, life is throwing crap at me. Sometimes life throws good stuff at me and I'm happy, and sometimes life throws crap at me and I'm pissed off, and it's not my fault. It's not my fault that I feel this way. It's not my fault that I feel depressed, or it's not my fault that I feel like this dreary sense of hopelessness in the world right now while everything's getting shut down around me and everybody's wearing masks over their face and everybody's afraid to leave their house. It's not my fault that I'm depressed. I mean, who could be happy in the middle of all of this? And with businesses shutting down left and right, who could be successful in the middle of all of this? And then one of my clients showed me how great his business had done at the end of the year of 2020. And I took on a new client in the early part of 2021, and he showed me how his business was killing it, even in the middle of all of the Rona craziness. And that wealth principle, you can think in ways that will support your happiness and your success, or you can think in ways that don't. It was like a little nagging seed in the back of my mind, and I had read it 10 years ago, and I never really believed it. And then one of my friends, one of my mentors, starts beating me over the head with this message. Stop listening to the stories that don't serve you. Start believing the stories that do serve you. Start thinking in ways that support your happiness and success. And then another one of the guys that I work with starts telling me the same thing. And then eventually, early on in 2021, it takes root. And I say, you know what? This year is not going to be the same as 2020 was. I'm not going to listen to those stories that kept me down and prevented me from happiness and prevented me from success. I'm going to start listening to the stories that are going to support my happiness, support my success. And lo and behold, 2021 ended up being one of the best years my business ever had. And it reminds me of a quote that I often hear repeated from Neville Goddard, which is the importance of faith, the importance of assuming the wish fulfilled. I went into 2021 knowing full well that my negative attitude in 2020 made 2020 a shit year for me and for my business. So I went into 2021 knowing it was going to be a better year and having full faith in that fact, assuming the wish fulfilled. So back to this book, Wealth Principle number 12. When you are complaining, you become a living, breathing crap magnet. And that's what I really love about this guy. That's what I really love about the way that he wrote this book is he doesn't pull punches. He just flat out bluntly says what it is. People that complain attract shit to complain about. Like attracts like. The energy that you create will resonate with other people who are on that same level, and it'll start to impress upon and cause that resonation in the things around you. When you complain all the time, when you have a negative mindset, a negative energy that you're putting out into the world, that energy taints everything around you and creates more negativity around you. Again, all is mind, all is mental. Everything starts in the mind, which leads us to wealth principle number 13. There's no such thing as a really rich victim. Now, that doesn't mean bad stuff doesn't happen to rich people, but it does mean that people who live into the idea of their own victimhood never attract success and really never attract happiness, never attract fulfillment in life. So one of the best things that you can do, and this is one of the things that really hit me hard back when I first read this book or listened to it back in 2012, was the fact that I needed to get over my victim mindset. Like I said, I grew up on welfare. I grew up poor. We started our first business. My first business was a huge struggle. It was a lot of fun. We made a lot of money, but it was a constant struggle. Then my brother, my business partner, dies. My dad dies, both within 3 days of each other. I was really feeling like a victim at that point in time. And when I came across this wealth principle, this idea that no matter what happens to you, you can't live the role of a victim, because if you live the role of a victim, you'll never be able to succeed. That one hit me like a ton of bricks, even way back then, 10 years ago. And that simple mindset shift of I'm no longer going to think of myself as a victim no matter what happens in life completely changed the trajectory of where I was going in life. And so I have to attribute a lot of the success that I've had in my life since when I first read this book up until now, where I'm at in my career and in my life and in my business. So much of it comes from this one wealth principle. There is no such thing as a really rich victim. And the next couple of principles that I'm going to tell you about have to do with the importance of clear intent. So if you're casting a spell, if you're creating a sigil, if you're praying to God, however it is that you communicate with divinity and try to get things to go your way, clearly defining what it is that you want is one of the most important things of making it work. And I mean, just think about it. In everyday, regular relationships, if you're not clear with what you want from the other person, it's really hard for them to actually live up to your expectations. People aren't mind readers. And even if the universe, even if God can read your mind, if you can't clearly define what it is that you want, there's no way that God or the universe are going to be able to deliver. So whether it's a relationship with another person, whether it's your relationship with the Almighty, the divinity out there, whether it's just your relationship with yourself, if you don't know how to explain what you want to yourself, good luck actually working towards those goals. If you want results, you need to be clear, send a clear message on what those results will look like. And so wealth principle number 15 is the number one reason most people don't get what they want is they don't know what they want. Again, if you don't have a clear destination, you're kind of just wandering through life without any kind of rudder to send you in the direction that you want to go. If you don't know where you want to go, you don't know how to get there, you don't know if you've gotten there. And so chances are you're never going to get there. Again, the number one reason most people don't get what they want is they don't know what they want. And this doesn't just apply to success or wealth or magic. This pretty much applies to every area of life. So take some time to ask yourself, what is it that I want? Take some time to clearly define for yourself what it is that you're working towards, because otherwise you're never going to get there. And that brings us to the final wealth principle that I wanted to cover today. And that is wealth principle number 18, bless that which you want. And he says he got this from a Huna philosophy, but it makes so much sense. If you want wealth, don't talk about how much you hate wealthy people, about how horrible and evil and greedy and exploitative wealthy people are. If you want money, don't talk about how you don't need money to be happy. If you want a loving partner, don't talk about how all men are dogs and they only want one thing, or how all women are cheaters and they're only after your money. Don't send mixed messages. And that's a foundational principle in magic and spell crafting and sigil crafting as well, which is don't send mixed messages to the universe. Don't say that you want something when part of you secretly doesn't want it, when part of you secretly doesn't believe you deserve it, when part of you secretly fears that it's going to destroy your life if you ever actually get it. If you want success, bless success. Celebrate the success of other people. If you want wealth, don't talk crap about people who have wealth. Don't run them down. Don't create all of these negative stories about wealthy people. Don't say to yourself, nobody should have that much money. Look at people who are wealthy and bless them for it. Try to learn from them. If you want a fulfilling relationship, don't be envious of people that have that. Celebrate it. Bless them for it. Stop sending mixed messages to the universe and start blessing that which you want. So, if you're like me from 10 years ago and you read this book, you probably wouldn't have made any connections to magical philosophy whatsoever reading through it. But if you're someone like me today and you're reading through this book, it's almost impossible not to see the connections between the philosophies of this book, the principles of this book, and the philosophies of magic. Which begs the question, is this a book on magic? Is The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind a book on magic? Is T. Harvecker secretly teaching you magic without letting you know that that's what he's doing? Or have Western esotericists just adopted the self-improvement principles into their work to make it more effective? Or are these just foundational principles of life and they're the backbone of magic and they're also the backbone of self-improvement? I can't really say, but I can say that going through and rereading this book recently with the lens that I now have, it's almost impossible to ignore the connection, the overlap between the philosophies that he lays out in this book and the principles, the philosophies that I have discovered are very foundational, fundamental to Western esotericism and Western magic. So if you're somebody who's a business owner, a marketer, an entrepreneur, and you're into developing yourself as a person and becoming somebody who actually deserves success, and if you're into exploring the connection between your thoughts and what they can manifest in your reality, this book is a must-read. I cannot recommend it enough. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eckert. Go check it out today. And if you've already read it, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'm Nathan Frazier, High Priest of Propaganda, and I'm out of here. Deuces. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're subscribed so you always catch the content we create for you in the future.